officially start, I would like to introduce
You're now recording.
Okay, it's 5:30. I'd like to call this meeting to order. It's a regular meeting for the Sequim Planning Commission. It's 5:30. Today is Tuesday, May 19th, 2026. The land we know as Sequim was once inhabited solely by the first peoples known as the S'Klallam people, represented by the three tribal governments, Lower Elwha S'Klallam, Jamestown S'Klallam, and Port Gamble S'Klallam. We serve as stewards of the land within the city of Sequim with the same care and consideration the S'Klallam tribes has and continues to provide. This acknowledgement is a respect to the S'Klallam people and their history. The Planning Commission serves as an advisory body to the City Council. The purpose of the Planning Commission is to provide guidance and direction for Sequim's future growth through continued review and improvement to Sequim's comprehensive plan, zoning code, shoreline management, environmental protection, and related land use documents. The Planning Commission will have all of the powers and perform each and all of the duties specified by Chapter 35A.63 RCW as amended and set forth or amended by ordinance. Roll call. Present? Yes.
Present.
I'm sorry about that. I got to record this. Commissioner Kuntz,
Present.
Commissioner Cummings asked to be excused. Commissioner Fain,
Present.
Commissioner Habel. He put his hand up. Commissioner Hewitt,
Present.
Commissioner LaFever,
Here.
and Commissioner Mahalik.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, thank you. Approval of minutes. Has the commission had a chance to review the minutes from the May 5th meeting? And if so, are there any corrections to the minutes? If there are no corrections, can we have why can't I think of the word?
To approve the
Thank
minutes.
you.
Second.
All those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, seeing none opposed, the minutes stand approved as written. Public comment. General public comment will be heard at this time. Each person is limited to 3 minutes. We have no public hearings tonight. So this is public comment. I don't see anybody in the room from the public to provide comment. Scott or Nick, is there anybody online who would like to provide public comment? Okay, thank you.
There's no hands raised if it's right.
Okay. So now I will close the public comment section of this meeting and we'll move on to general business. And that is the Planning Commission agenda packet, comprehensive plan, schedule status update.
Well, commissioners, I was hoping I might have some more detailed information for you, as I mentioned in your council packet. But I can give you an update where we're at with our consultant work. So our transportation master plan consultant did deliver a draft transportation master plan, and we were hopeful that we would be able to kind of move forward with it, but there was enough things that needed to be addressed or corrected that we returned it back with some additional comments. I do believe, though, that this will be the last round of comments to the consultant, and we'll be able at the third draft to be able to move forward with that. And it is a bit, I think I mentioned before, it's a little bit of a domino effect because my consultant that is on deck for the supplemental EIS, while they're working on other portions of it, can't move forward on the transportation section until this transportation master plan is done. But we're all working on the parts that we have the information for. So we are expecting late June or early July public release of everything that still is within the time frame. The city engineer and I checked in today, and we do believe that our his consultant will be able to turn around within 2 to 3 weeks the comments that the team, and it was both DCD, Travis and I both had a number of comments, and so did the engineering team as well. But they all they're not so complex in that they cannot be resolved in a couple weeks. How about that? So hopefully next meeting we'll have some more dates, but as you could see from your packet from Travis, we have content and we have things to talk to you about for the meetings in June as well, which he'll go over. So anyway, thank you for your continued patience, and as I know what our schedule will be, I will definitely let you know. But I think if you're trying to plan your summer, what I would say is your public hearings would be in August. It might be later August and early September, and I think that that's a fair time frame to plan around. So, thank you. Any questions? Sorry, go ahead.
Any questions from the commission? Okay, thank you, Carla.
Thank you.
Okay, so we will move on to new business at this point, which is our zoning code update. And Travis, I believe this is you.
We meet again. Yes, we're back for more. So I'll let the PowerPoint get brought up, but yeah. So today we're just a few draft chapters that we're going to talk about, and one of the things about you, I don't know if you noticed with the slides or not, but there is a bit more. How do I kind of depth to what was in the slides versus what we talked about with maybe some of the other ones, because I found it very hard to there's not a lot of concept, I guess, in these ones because there's just a lot of things we must do. So and I'll kind of go into that a bit. But really it's a kind of just here's the update, here are some of the things we're doing, and where there are maybe some lines for conceptual ideas, that's where I'll kind of get your input. But a lot of it is just like, we had to do this. And so I really wanted to put a lot of that in the slides so you could see kind of what that entails, so that maybe when the codes are released, you kind of have a little bit more context for these ones specifically. So we can go to the next slide, and then actually we can just jump right in. So if you want to go 2 slides forward, go to essential public facilities. So this was a big one. The state obviously has RCW 3670A 200 that establishes essential public facilities, what they are. So those uses are airports, schools, mental health facilities, transportation facilities, which is more of a regional transportation facility. So think of things like WashDOT and beyond. Corrections facilities, group homes, and secure community transition facilities. And so those are what are established as the essential public facilities. We are not allowed to prohibit them from any zone. So we must find kind of a path forward for citing them that is less subjective, more prescriptive, to allow that lawful citing of the EPFs as required by the state. So the current code is a little bit more, there's too much discretion in the way the current code is written that could potentially get us into trouble if somebody were to come in and want to cite an essential public facility. It hasn't gotten us yet, but like this is something that needed to be updated in order to be consistent with the RCW. So like I said, less subjective, more. Go ahead, Karen.
Will you be using this slide later on, or maybe for a council presentation also?
Possibly.
I could just suggest that your second bullet point within state RCW, blah, 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 so that
Sure.
that-
Okay.
that
Yeah.
way
Oh,
it's
it's
there,
got it. Yeah.
and nobody can say, well,
We're just doing,
Yeah.
we're going rogue. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it totally makes sense. Yeah, so like I was saying, we can't prohibit it. So we have to find a way towards permit approval. But one of the things we are able to do it through a conditional use or an administrative conditional use permit, where we do have some discretion over how we can mitigate impact to neighboring properties. It can't be you can't do this but there has to be an opportunity for, if they do this, then no issues. So we have to find what is going to be an acceptable type of screening, or how do we mitigate for that impact. But it can't be you don't get to locate here. The state has essentially kind of taken that from us, and you have to find a way to make it work. So the approval criteria will focus on consistency with the state law and the comprehensive plan as best we can. Mitigation of impacts such as noise, traffic, and compatibility, again, as best we can. Adequate public services and infrastructure being provided, landscaping, screening, setbacks, and buffering to kind of work with those mitigations. So Yeah, there's an opportunity for flexibility from standard development regulations when they can show that it's necessary for the siting of the EPF. Otherwise, the underlying zoning still comes into play. But if, that's not reasonable for them to cite, let's say an airport, not to say that we're expecting an airport in Sequim anytime soon, but it may be hard for an airport to meet residential zoning standards if that's the best location that they could find. It's an extreme example, but it kind of illustrates the point. So any immediate questions on citing essential public facilities? Nope. Okay. Oh, actually, before we go, I do just want to I guess, at least make reference, and I'll probably add it to a future slide. The distinction between a conditional use and administrative conditional use is based on the type of use. So think airports, transportation facilities, correction facilities, and secure community transition facilities will need a conditional use permit, which would be reviewed by the hearing examiner, whereas schools, mental health facilities, and group homes would be administrative and approved by the department.
Question on that real quick.
Yeah.
So on the applies to uses including that you have, are those all or are those examples?
That's all of them.
Okay.
So actually, and I was looking at my draft code today, and I went ahead and I added an additional one, and it's not a specific use, but it is, or as otherwise established by the RCW, just in case, the state gets a wild hair and decides to add another one to the list. That way it's covered in code and we don't
Okay.
necessarily need to amend it. But again, that's in the draft and we can talk about that. But yeah, these are the 7 that are called out specifically per the RCW. And then I have added that 8th as kind of a catch-all for any future additions that the state might add.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Okay, so another one where our current code is a little, it's out of date is probably the best way to put it. And so there's been some updates recently per the RCWs listed here. So 3670A 450 for family daycare homes, and then 35A 21460 for child daycare centers, that really establish how we are able to administer, cite, locate, and permit these. So family daycare homes, potentially up to 12, with the right approval from the state, are allowed in any residential dwellings in residential and commercial zones. So if you have an established residential unit, you have the right to have a family daycare home as long as you can meet all the state's requirements. So that would be we wouldn't process like the state licensing through DCYF. But we would administer those, the specific in-home ones through a home occupation permit. The home occupation permit requirements wouldn't necessarily apply to these because there are specific requirements that family daycare homes have to meet per the draft code. And so if we were to also try to enforce the home occupation standards on top of that, that would go against what the RCW requires. So the HOP for family daycare homes is more just procedural. So there's a permit pathway for them. And then child daycare centers, which are larger, depending on if they are, locating in an existing building or a new construction altogether, what their land use permit will vary depending on where they're locating and if it's a new or existing structure. So again, there's very prescriptive standards that we have to follow as far as locations for child daycare centers. Again, that's the larger ones. That's in permitted zones, which is pretty much every zone except industrial, light industrial, and open space. However, industrial and light industrial, there's just caveats to how they're located. So like you still have to allow them there, but there's just some additional requirements for how you can locate them there. And then some of those standards are listed there. So must be on site of an existing industrial use, must buffer, locate play areas away from hazards and truck traffic, and must address safety separation from industrial operations. And then in the event that that industrial use is high hazard, then it just wouldn't be permitted at all. You know, and I think this came about as with large industrial sites needing to locate daycare facilities likely for employees. So again, this may not be something that SQUIM ever sees. However, we've got to have it in our code in the event that it does. So pretty prescriptive based on our RCW. Go ahead.
Can homeowner associations veto the family daycare homes?
I would assume that they could, you know, and we're not in the business of enforcing HOAs. So if they did, I would, unlike the ADU stuff that we talked about previously, where a new development with an HOA wouldn't be able to prohibit. There's nothing in the RCW for this specific use, so I would imagine that they could still prohibit it if they so choose. Yeah, similar with any, I guess, home business. I think they would have the ability to do that. So it's a good question, though. Yeah. All right. So on that topic of home occupation permits, so we are kind of revamping the home occupation permit process. And I guess what I mean, there's kind of a provision, thank you. There's a provision in the code as of today for a more in-depth review, but it's not really flushed out well enough that there's a good process to it. So we're doing that with the code update so that there's kind of a two-tier system there where there's kind of base standards and base requirements and thresholds that if you are under those thresholds, you can just get a home occupation permit, the standard version of it. Now, if you and then there's an opportunity that you can exceed those base standards up to a certain point. So it's not an infinite or never ending. There would still be a cap on it. For instance, things like daily trips or visits to the home. What we've got kind of in draft right now is something like 5 commercial trips to the home would be standard, and then up to 10 could be done through an administrative conditional use permit in addition to the HOP. So there would be kind of this two-tiered system so that you could have, you know, your standard home occupation permit process, and then there's an option to go up. And by doing it through the ACUP process, that does give the staff a little bit of discretion on if we reach a point where it's like, this is too incompatible or it doesn't work without proper mitigations, then we can just say no. Or tell them you need to keep it under this and just do the standard, and that way it can go forward. So really this is one of those ones that is a little bit more conceptual because it's different than kind of how we've been currently administering it. So eager to hear feedback on if you like this approach, this idea of having a two-tiered system. One of the things that we've discussed internally is that, you know, the monitoring of certain threshold standards could become a code enforcement or code compliance thing. And so we do, to some degree, we don't want to open up too much of a can of worms that creates more problems for ourselves. So yeah, any thoughts, questions? Yeah, go ahead, Dennis.
Perhaps, how do you address the parking situation in the administrative CUP process?
Sure. So, I mean, and that's a good thought. So like, if it's not a site that has the ability to do on-street parking, you know, I think that becomes a challenge, right? And I think that's where ultimately we can come down and we could say you don't have adequate parking for this type of use or for what you're proposing, and this isn't going to work. So unless that property owner was able to figure out some sort of parking agreement, maybe with a nearby facility or, you know, potentially neighbors even, I don't think that we'd be able to permit it. You know, and like Carla, unless they had room on site. If they were able to you know, adequately park everybody on site, great. You know, but that'll be something that we'll be reviewing for. So yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Easy peasy. Okay. So this next one, I do just want to preface this that this is a rendering of the library, which was one of our most recent conditional use permits. It won't be a conditional use permit in the future because we're going to zone them public. So like they wouldn't need to get one, but under current code they did, and under current zoning they did have to get a conditional use permit. So I was trying to find something new, relatively recent, and that we could use. And unfortunately, I don't have any good pictures of the finished build. So here's the rendering. The gist of what we're doing with conditional use permits is more of a cleanup than anything else. So there's probably the least amount of substantial changes in this. Really, it's more getting it to be more administration friendly, ease of use, consistency, similar to all the other code updates that we're doing. I do want to at least add there is an emphasis in this new draft for essential public facilities, since that is part of the cleanup of the essential public facilities was putting the process more into the conditional use permit process. So I had to have very clear expectations specific to essential public facilities where maybe we don't get to be as discretionary with those particular conditional use permits as we would with just other conditional uses that are called out in the zoning table. So there is some specific language in the draft to essential public facilities, again, just to be consistent with RCWs so that we're not, hey, our essential public facility code is good, but then the process by which they apply for it then bogs them down and actually precludes them from citing. So I had to kind of bake in some some relief, I guess, for essential public facilities from the strict application of the conditional use permit process, if that makes sense. And I guess to wrap on that, all of the ACUPs and CUPs will be detailed in the zoning use tables. So they will be called out and you'll know exactly if it's not outright allowed in the zone, you'll see whether or not you could do it through a CUP or an ACUP. So any questions on conditional uses? All right. And then this is a site plan of a Lennar home in Rolling Hills, and you probably can't see it. Maybe you can, but under project notes, it is a temporary sales office. So under the current code, you would get a TUP for a model home and a temporary sales office within a subdivision. So it seemed appropriate to use this site plan. But really the big shift in what we're doing with TUPs is we're trying to find the sweet spot between temporary use permits, special event permits, and private property uses is really kind of the gist of what we're doing. In recent years, the special event permit has been determined to not maybe be the best permit pathway for private property uses. And so we've actually been using the TUP more to catch the ones that may have been a special event permit in the past. So think of the Wilder RV sale or the hot tub sale over there at the JCPenney's parking lot. Historically, that had been a special event permit, but now it is, they need to obtain a temporary use permit, which to me makes more sense because it is a temporary use of the site that is not allowed per the zone. So you get a TUP to do something that wouldn't otherwise be permitted. It's more of a commercial use, and it's not really an event in the truest sense. So that's kind of what we're working with. We are, we'll have some follow-up meetings here in probably the near future with the parks and / public works department as they embark on updating and redoing the special event permit code, as well as legal, just to make sure we're all on the right track and on the same page, and that we try to eliminate any of that gray area that could come up, and then maybe we end up with something that doesn't have a permit pathway, or what are the instances where maybe there just isn't a permit necessary for certain types of properties and uses. So that's kind of the big takeaway, but we're also, so with that, we're looking at more short-term TUPs. So TUPs right now, the allowed duration of them, there's only like 3 or 4. And so like the code isn't explicit that you can do, a one-time use 7-day off-site sale type pop-up. But we can administer it as such, but we're making it just more clear that that is an allowed use through the TUP process. And then with that, I've had recent conversations with Carla about, does this also lend itself to maybe having a tiered approach to the TUP, where we have maybe a cheaper option for these one-time 7-day uses for, for the RV show or for the hot tub sale, as opposed to, something that's going to go up to a year and be used every single day. So kind of trying to find a way to be equitable to the types of uses being proposed. So any thoughts on maybe looking into that 2-tiered and having kind of a minor TUP and a more major TUP so that we can distinguish between those uses? Go ahead.
Just a quick thought. It really depends on your staff time in reviewing these,
Mm-hmm.
because then that's going to base what the fee is for each one of those processes. So,
Right.
if your staff review time is going to vary depending on the intensity of the use, then a tiered system may be logical to use.
Cool. No, I think that's actually that's a great thought. No, and I appreciate that, because in essence, the application will be very similar. And so it may not matter because what we're going to ask them to submit is going to be about the same. And I guess I should just add that one of the big emphases, at least for me when writing this, is ensuring public health and safety, just the well-being. If they're going to pop up in a parking lot and encourage people to shop and walk around, one of the biggest things I'm looking for is how are you distinguishing, pedestrian flows and vehicular flows? How are you separating those? And I don't know if that'll change based on a long-term use versus a short-term use. However, we have gotten some recently for temporary parking lots. So we've gotten a couple of those recently, which do to some degree involve a higher level of review, not necessarily maybe from our staff, but from Public Works and Engineering, as far as maybe stormwater or how all of that's going to get done. Generally, we can condition that the bulk of that review happens with any subsequent Public Works permits, clearing, grading, site construction right of way, those kinds of things. But no, point well taken, and I think Carla and I will use that in our next conversation about this. So I appreciate that. Yeah. Go ahead, Karen.
What would an exemption for an approved special event be? Since it's a temporary use, what approved special event wouldn't require a permit?
So, approved. So a special event wouldn't need necessarily a temporary use permit. So the exemptions include on-site promotions, which would be like Home Depot or Walmart doing an on-site sale on their own property. Approved special events wouldn't always need a TUP. There could be some that potentially need both, but that's part of what we'll have to establish via code. Construction staging. Construction staging I think is pretty self-evident in you got a subdivision and they've got equipment ready to move. Yard and garage sales. I don't want to be in the business of
Are fireworks stands a temporary use permit?
fireworks stands are prohibited in the city now. So
Okay.
yeah, but they had a standalone permit in the past. So it was separate from a TUP. But yeah, I believe I think last year was the last year that we were allowing them. So I
And
think they're done.
let's say if Safeway does their chili roasting, that's exempt.
So I believe there's a term in the current code for incidental food service. So that's like when Coastal does their like hot dog sales and stuff like that, then yeah, no issues. I would
No
consider that on-site promotional.
Okay.
Yep. Any other questions? We made it through. Okay, so quickly, just kind of to summarize, the impact for essential public facilities is clarification of where they're sited and how, consistent with state law. We allow them in all zones with conditional use review and clear impact mitigation standards. Any questions about EPFs? None. Okay. Daycare facility, updated and streamlined permitting for childcare facilities. Any questions about the daycare process? No. Any home occupation? Again, just clear objective standards for that kind of two-tiered approach. Any issues with the two-tiered approach or? No. Okay. CUPs, any questions? No. TUPs, SEPs, major, minor? I think we got it all. Hey, that's pretty good. 6 o'clock just passed.
You're getting pretty efficient.
Yeah. All right. So next steps, we might even try to beat tonight with our next meeting on 6/2. So the ones listed there, I'm not updating. I'm bringing, and if I am, it's to eliminate the shalls and make them either mays or musts or wills. And then just other cleanups because like, hey, I'm in here, but not anything really substantial is being done to these codes. And a couple of them were just updated, so there's no need. And then on 6/16, we're going to do an overview of the public release for the comp plan, and also the future land use map. So really I won't go into depth and hit you with the same presentation on the future land use map again, but I'll just give any updates on the redesignation requests to let you know if anybody's withdrawn and which ones you can expect to have to review. And that's pretty much it. So any last questions? No. All right. Sweet.
No? Okay.
Great questions as always. Thank you guys.
Everybody's good on all this? Okay. All right. Thank you, Travis. Anything else to add? Carla or Travis from before we?
I know I was quiet. No, I'm just really thankful for all the hard work that Travis put in Title 18. It's not, it is a, it is a labor of love, and to rewrite an entire zoning ordinance is not, it's not a small task. And I think for somebody who's lived in the code every day, it really is, there's some therapeutic pieces to it. There's some responding to comments that you've heard from citizens and developers over the years. And then just the ability for, because when we use the term ease of administration a lot, you'll hear it from us in the public release documents too. That doesn't mean that it's making our job easier. What it does mean is it's making the code easier to understand for us and for the community and for applicants. And that makes a huge difference. And in fact, I might, under director's report, ask you to give us another success story about Title 17. But anyway, thank you for letting me kind of just, all right, we're almost in our wrap of Title 18, and then you'll get to see it all, and it's all of it together, again, either late July or not late July, or late June or early July, and all the pieces will kind of fall into place for you for what we've been talking about for the last few months. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on that? Yes, Alex.
For this effort right here, but we will entertain them for 2027. So, yep.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to comment that, there's been a lot of feedback in the past from the public on how cumbersome, the permitting process and the code and everything is with the city. So I love to see this because, it opens up a lot of doors and streamlines a lot of stuff, both for the public and for us. So thank you. Are you ready for director's report?
I am. I do.
Okay.
I have a couple things I'd like to share with you. I wanted to share with you that you may or may not know this, but our Public Works Director, Paul Busich, is retiring. And he will be leaving us on June 12th, I believe is his date. But the city manager has made a new hire, and we are excited to have oh gosh, what's Chris's last name? Gollings. Okay. So he'll be joining the city on June 8th. He's actually coming up tomorrow for a couple days, and then he'll come in for a couple days in June before Paul retires. But we're looking forward to him joining the team. He comes from Alaska Department of Transportation, and but does have city experience as a young engineer in Oregon, and spent about 10 years at the city of Albany in Oregon before moving to Alaska. So we're excited to have him join our team. So he may at some point during the comp plan process pop in for a planning commission meeting. So you may get a chance to meet him. I wanted to note that I think I mentioned a couple meetings ago about Flores Acres and the Flores Acres neighborhood, and they are moving forward in their annexation. Scott will be, he's shepherding that annexation effort. Will be going to City Council public hearing on Tuesday. And then after that, we'll move forward with the County Boundary Review Board process. But I think I may have mentioned this is our first annexation, as far as we can tell, in about 20 years. So Scott and I have spent some time like having to learn the process again and be familiar with it again. And but we've got it dialed in, so we're feeling really good about it now. So that will I think we have our annexation being effective in August, the beginning of August. And coming on the heels of that will be, as I mentioned to you, I think last time, a utility local improvement district. And that is part of the Flores Acres kind of package, which needed some infrastructure improvements that the city, the county, and the state have all partnered with different funding sources. And one of the funding sources is this utility local improvement district, which is essentially a self-assessment that they're going to assess themselves to help pay the city back for a loan for one of the pieces of infrastructure. The code, as I mentioned before, the code has established that the required public hearing for a ULID is before the Planning Commission, and you make a recommendation to the City Council. So the city engineer, we're just talking yesterday or maybe even today, actually, as it turns out. So he's anticipating that public hearing before you will be, he's shooting for your first meeting in August. So again, it's, running the meeting, running the hearing, taking testimony, considering the facts, and then offering a recommendation to the city council. And then I thought I'd close, and I'm springing this on Travis, so I'm sorry, but you had a really great conversation with someone at the counter this morning, and I just think it's another one of our Title 17 success stories. So maybe you just share just quickly about that, and then, yeah, thanks, Travis.
And it's a momentary success, but there's still more to come because they need the full Title 18 update to fully realize what they need. However, it's a project that ultimately got squashed in the past because it just didn't pencil the way they needed it to. But they're able now through the administrative lot split. So we've actually had a few recently that are interested in utilizing an administrative lot split. A couple of short plats that sat out there and never actually got completed because of the requirements for infrastructure in the past. Now they're going to be able to use the administrative lot split to create the lot that they were going to create anyway, but it was cost prohibitive. But the one specifically today, they're going to utilize the administrative lot split to create a second lot, and then they will be able to essentially build another primary residence, and through the updated ADU codes, they can put 2 ADUs on both of those lots. And so then by being able to do that now, it will allow them to start making some money that they will be able to then put towards future redevelopment of the site once Title 18 is updated. So it's a momentary win that will get them hopefully closer to what they are wanting to do in the near future once all the work we're doing is done. So what seemed about a year ago, or maybe even a little longer than that, as maybe a dead end project is now being revitalized and coming back again. So
Does that put a primary residence and 2 ADUs on each of the new lots?
correct.
Oh, okay. So that's 6 dwelling units.
Yep. But only 2 of them count.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Anything else? No? Okay, thank you. Do we have anything for good of the order? Alex?
Oh, could I ask how the mobile vendor improvements that we made are working out? Have we had more sign up like Taco Loco?
yeah, so I think we've had 3 and they all seem to gravitate towards that intersection there. So we've had Southern Nibble, which was the original, and Caleb was the one who kind of pushed for it to change in the first place. So he's there. Taco Loco is there, and then across the street, I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's a like one of those tiny trucks that does hot dogs. So yeah, at the Yeti coffee shop parking lot. So there's 3 right there, basically at the same intersection. Those are the only 3, I believe, that have gotten permits. So if you see others, maybe let us know or let them know to come talk to us. So
Did you give them a sticker or something to display?
they get an issued permit and they should be able to reproduce it at any time. So yeah, they should have it on site.
Yeah, if you ever drop by, you could.
Yeah. It's like, hey, where's that?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Yeah. So reasonably successful. Yeah, no major changes proposed. You'll see that code in a couple weeks, but no major changes proposed as of this time. But yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anything else for good of the order?
It's probably somewhere in the. Oh, excuse. Oh,
No, you're fine, Alex. Go ahead.
this is just things that come up in my life. Noxious plants. Has anything changed with that,
No.
or the city's approach on getting rid of poison hemlock?
Yeah. So, and that's all dealt with by the county.
Oh, county,
There's
okay.
it's going to escape me the correct term, but it's basically a noxious weed board or something along those lines that the county has.
And
And they do have staff, it sounds like.
and they would administrate Scotch broom if
Yeah,
anything.
and I
the
think
chain
when they
gang.
know about it, they send out letters and let you know, like, hey, you need to get rid of this.
Gosh, that's county matter. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and empty, undeveloped lots that have a lot of brush that could be a fire hazard.
It would
How
be
do people living next to those
So
deal
it's
with that?
it is a potential nuisance. I believe under our current code, we are in the works of totally overhauling code compliance and code enforcement. I believe as of now, the idea is for nuisances to be managed by PD. So it would be a police department issue.
No.
Well, yeah, the code enforcement officer or code compliance officer, whichever one we.
Would people bring a complaint to the police department?
Correct.
Or would,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Got it.
Okay, anything else? Going once, Alex? Going twice? You're welcome.
Away, so the stuff just all comes up, you know?
All right. Well, if there's nothing further, do
Madam
we-
Chair, I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yep.
There's plenty of pizza for after the meeting, so please grab some.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Do we have a second? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Okay, meeting adjourned at 6:15.